Hello YouTube, this is Amisbro. Happy New Year. How's everybody doing? Everything's going well here. Nobody got, party too hard and everything, so everything's all good there. 2 videos tonight. The first one is going to be a game show review I have promised for God knows how long. Then, after I do this one, I'm going to immediately do the next one. And the next one's going to be predictions for the next year, maybe a year and a half, for what I think is going to happen with Udapre. And we have some important news also to talk about that happened earlier, yesterday now, when I turned on my Roku, which I will talk about with you in the next video. This video, we're talking about the game show 3, 2, 1, which was a game show that aired from, give me 1 second, July 29th, 1978 to Christmas Eve, 1988. So it lasted for 10 years and was hosted by Ted Rodgers as the host. It was based on a Spanish game show called Uno, Dos, Tres, and it was a trio of 3 shows, a quiz, which I'll explain how that worked, a variety, how that worked, and it was also your basic game show. So, yeah. So, what the hell was it, and how does it work? Good question. Here's your answer. So, as I just read on the description, 3, 2, 1 was in fact 3 different shows rolled into one. But it was also an elimination show with a very unique way to eliminate people, and I'll explain how that worked. So, we'll do that right now. There are 3 parts to the game show, or to this show. The first was called the 1001 quiz, or more specifically, the 1 to 1000. The second part was a memory and physical challenge game, and the final one was one that they would eventually call Take It or Leave It. And I'll explain how all these work right now. The first part was called the 1000 to 1 quiz. Okay, specifically it was more 1 to 1000, because you have to get as high a score as possible from 1 pound to 1,000 pounds, which is as high as you can go. How do we get there? It's very simple. So, Ted Rodgers would give a list of, or he'd give a category to contestants. They had to try and list off 10 items on that list. Now they can use the one that Ted gave them, because one of the rules is that they can't end up with a 0 or a 0. Ted would give one answer, and they would use that answer and then build off of it. You cannot repeat an answer in your time limit. If you do, your time ends there. If, however, you make all 10, well, then you stop there. So here you go. If you max out and get 10, then in the second round, every answer is worth 10 pounds. The second set that you get is always going to be worth the amount that you got in the prior round. So in other words, if you say you got 5 in the first round, well, in the second round, all the questions are going to be worth 5. From that point, it's going to be worth whatever you get. So let's say you got 5, 5. So now you got what, 10? So I'm guessing it would then be worth, from there, that amount. Your goal is to try and get as high a point total as possible to win. However, every time you win, you're eliminated. But you can come back next week and play again. It is one of the few British game shows that I can recall that used a returning champion format. I say returning champion because effectively you're losing. You're being eliminated. So, are you really the champion? You know what I'm saying? The other show that I remember that actually used a returning champion format was when I watched Blockbusters, and I believe the version I watched was Simon Mayo's that actually had the returning champions, although I do believe Bob Holness's had the returning champion format, which was actually played, for anybody who's curious, under the format that was used when Bill Cullen hosted that show here in America, the 2 versus 1 format. So that's the first round. Round 2 takes the 2 surviving teams, and now you have to play a memory game. And here's how it works. So every episode of 3-2-1 is based on some type of theme. It can be something like motorsports, it can be cars, it can be, well, I guess they can be the same thing. It can be, the Wild West, it can be a cruise, it can be something. Whatever it is, you have to watch a sketch. This is important because things that happen during the sketch are now going to be you're now going to be quizzed on. So yes, again, there's a quiz. One hitch. There's actually 2 parts to it. The first part has one team member writing down the answers to the questions that Ted reads off from what they saw in the sketch. And the second part has the partner playing a game worth points. They're both worth points, but here's where it gets tricky. When they switch off, the woman, when they play the game, actually has their points worth more. If a man, for the male contestant, it's 1 point. For the female, it's actually 2. Why? Because they figure that the game would actually be more difficult for the female contestant than the male. Somehow that sounds kind of sexist, but what are you going to do? Anywho, the team that, between getting questions correct and their points in that part of the game, the team that scores the highest moves on to the final match, and the losing team is eliminated. Now we're down to 1. Do you see where the 3-2-1 comes in? The final game is called Take It or Leave It, and it is a very interesting game. On a table are a bunch of different items, but on those items are cards. The item that you eliminate, Ted reads the card off. The notes on the card are ambiguous to what you want to get rid of, or you're trying to get rid of. Your goal is to keep a motor car on the board and not end up with the booby prize. What's the booby prize? Well, in this show, it is a porcelain replica of the show's mascot called Dusty Ben, and he actually has appeared on the show. He's a robotic type of mascot. You do not want to end up with Dusty Ben on the table as the final. You can end up with him beforehand, but you cannot end up with him as the final. Just so you know, in all episodes that I have seen, Dusty Ben was never won. I have seen a motor car won. So that's important. Now, like I said, the reveal is always interesting because I guess they try to trick the contestants with what they actually won by when they read the card off, or what they didn't win, rather, by reading the card off. So like I said, you don't want to eliminate the car, you want to eliminate Dusty Ben. Suffice to say, this show was a success. It lasted for about 10 years. I think it was a hit. Interestingly enough, if I remember reading correctly, it was supposed to be a 13-week replacement for another show, and it lasted 10 years. That sounds like another show I want to talk about with you at some point. Going for Gold. It was supposed to be for 13 weeks, lasted God knows how many years. We will talk about that show at some point. suffice, like I said, it was a hit, and interestingly enough, they wanted to do another series. And then inexplicably, as Ted Rodgers explained in an interview, they found they were canceled. And they were one of the highest rated programs. What? Seems like station idiocy to me, but what do you know? What do you want to do? As far as game shows go, this is a gem. If you have not watched 3-2-1, you owe it to yourself to watch the program. And then you get a better idea than what I explained, because I probably have botched it a couple times. But definitely. Oh, and for anybody who's interested, I think I mentioned this earlier, they do have female representation on the program. They refer to, as I mentioned, as the gentle sex. That's actually spelled S-E-C''S. Yeah, trust me, if you don't actually read the credits and you just hear it, you're thinking what I thought. No. But anywho, that is this video. And I will see you in the next one. By the way, because I forgot to do the Bob's Full House one, how about I do a make good for you? What you say next week? We'll call for maybe Tuesday, because I have stuff I have to do on Monday. Let's say we do another British game show. Sound good? And maybe we'll actually do Going for Gold, because the story behind that show is actually kind of interesting, especially if you know your U.S. pilots, failed pilots. I'll see you then. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video after this one. Bye-bye.